Shalom, and thank you for all of those that have been patiently waiting for podcast number 3. Lord, let me tell you, we've been dealing with so many technical difficulties on trying to get this podcast uploaded for you guys. So thank you very much for those that have been waiting, encouraging us to continue to do the will of the Most High and getting this truth out there. Um, we ask for your prayers in dealing with this. This is all brand new to us in learning this, the podcast, learning how to do it, how to edit it, and how to upload everything. So we just ask for your prayers for encouragement. And if any of you guys have a gift in it, in that you can give us any type of advice on how to do things a little bit more smoother and a little easier, then we open the doors with gratitude. And I also just pray that we will continue to have these podcasts out there. I know we were aiming to do it every week, but until we know this thing thoroughly, please bear with us. Please bear with us. Without further ado, I'll go ahead and turn over to podcast number 3, the Black Superheroes. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, welcome back to our podcast. We are going to be going over spiritual and racial identity from dark-skinned to lighter skinned, from African to European descent. This is Dr. Jonathan M. Hudson's first book that he's put out. This is going to be podcast number 3, and we are going to be talking about the Black superheroes. And today we also have a guest with us. His name is Rom'EL Allen Terry. I'm ready to dive in, guys.
Man. Rom'EL, we had a great time last time. And so I just appreciate the fact that you are here with us again. Hopefully we can keep doing this.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, there's no other place I'd rather be. Here with family.
Yeah.
Amen. Well, as promised, we're now kind of diving off into the Black superheroes, spiritual superheroes.
Yeah.
One of the questions I was asked, and why Black spiritual superheroes? And so there's a part in the book that seems dark. No one really wants to kind of hear about. It's hard to hear. About the atrocities and that African Americans have gone through. And I just want to be able to provide that during these times, and we're going to talk about from the 16th to the 19th century, that we were not always in despair. God has actually raised up some spiritual Black superheroes to help get us through those dark days. And even still today. So, we'll be covering some of the great superheroes like Nat Turner and Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Frederick Douglass, Booker T. Washington, W.E.B. Du Bois, and of course, other Black superheroes that we'll kind of be speaking on.
Can I ask you, how did you come about to getting this list of Black superheroes? Like, how did these names come to you? Like, oh man, I got to write this down. I got to talk about it. How did this come about?
Thanks. Well, y'all placed it on my heart. And, like one, Nat Turner, there's controversial issues. Why would one call, Nat a spiritual Black superhero? And we're going to be able to and I want to touch and talk on that, where we seem to depict Nat as this brutal, although he stood up for, against slavery, but, how could Nat go and not only kill his slave master, but kill the wife, kill the kids,
the whole family.
Mm-hmm. And so we look at him as being brutal. But the question is, was he really? And so I kind of want to touch on those. And there's some also great, women like Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, talking about some of the things that, they have done. And then also, there was a time for Booker T. Washington and W.E. Du Bois, and they had different views on things, but yet both views were needed at the time.
Well, one thing that I have to say that what I love about this is you're going into a deeper level with each one, because I have to say, out of this list, growing up in schools, Harriet Tubman for sure was on there.
Frederick Douglass.
But honestly, for me, I no. They might show us a picture, but really going into depths of who this brother was and what he stood up for, nothing.
Right. Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois are definitely though.
But with Booker T, I attribute that to my grandmother, because every time we had to drive down to Virginia, we had to stop at where he was living, like the shack, that whole thing. She made it nope, we're going there. Y'all gonna learn about him, So I definitely appreciate that you're shining light to who they were spiritually too, as well as culturally.
Yeah, and we're gonna even do more than that. We're going to what you don't hear in schools and history, and don't read in history books, is where their ancestors came from. And we know, of course, Africa, but the significance also pointing to, they weren't just any Africans. They were Hebrews. And so we're going to be able to link that lineage.
Okay, so
back to these individuals.
I see we're starting off with Nate, so help us out.
So on October the 2nd, 1800, Nate Turner was born on the plantation of Benjamin Turner in Southampton County, Virginia. Nate's mother's name was Nancy. His father's name is unknown, which is common in those days. As slaves were bought and sold, believe it or not, we don't like to hear this, but they were just a commodity. They were livestock.
There you
go. To them. And some slave owners kept, good documentations of the records of their slaves, yet records have been known to have either been misplaced or even lost. Or destroyed.
We see a lot of that going on today, don't we? Trying to brush everything under the rug,
Yeah, what was it? Who's the president that? I'm gonna let y'all give the name.
Oh, you're talking about Trump?
Oh, Trump. Yeah,
and his cronies,
and
Santos.
Even Trump. Well, we know how they're trying to take out Black history. And we don't want the schools to know about the atrocities. I mean, what was it? Trump. I wish we had that clip to where Trump was basically saying, we don't need to go back to the past and stir up things. We just all need to just move forward.
Yeah, it's causing greater division.
Yeah, it is. But it's crazy though. So when I'm thinking of someone that's trying to get rid of evidence, pretty much, like that's a criminal aspect.
Right.
Let me hurry up and throw this away. Man, is there any blood on me? Like, man, let me throw it away so no one will know.
Let's shred the evidence.
Exactly.
Right. And it's very important that we know our history.
Yeah.
The whole thing of history is so that we don't repeat the same mistakes.
Straight up.
So we just can't just throw it away.
And once again, to bring up the controversial aspect of Nat Turner, it's only controversial to those who don't understand the struggle. Because when I think of biblical stories, there's a lot of correlation between Nat Turner and, say, that of Joshua. When he killed, he didn't just kill the parents. He killed the children as well, too, because there is a correlation in that as well, too. I mean, think about it. Who would know best about how these children are going to develop than the slaves that are around them and raising them? Because remember, mammies had the job of raising these children. The parents did not raise these children.
Yeah.
So if they needed to go, the slaves would know best.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So according to what would later title The Confession of Nat Turner, and keep in mind, so once he was captured, the attorney goes into his cell. So we don't really know what Nat looked like. However, this is the document that we do have. I encourage those that are listening, you can actually now go and Google and get this actual documentation of his confession to attorney Thomas R. Gray. And Thomas writes that Nat's mother and grandmother told Nat that he was intended for some great purpose. Now, while others probably, we will assume that there probably other enslaved individuals that was with Nat that got chance to, family members and all that got chance to know of him. And this is something we don't really hear about. We don't hear about his spiritual, side of him. We don't hear about, what was prophetic within his life. So these others that would tell Nat that he would be a prophet one day. Nat spent most of his life deeply seeking God Yahweh for deliverance, of the enslaved through, most slaves couldn't read or write, but we know that Nat was able to read and had access to the Bible. And I say to the Bible.
Their version of the Bible.
Their version of the Bible, because we know that the Bible was used to indoctrinate, or it was used to docile.
Yeah, the slave Bible.
Yeah, to control them. So, so this is something that is, significant that we really kind of need to look at. But I really kind of want to just focus on, he was a spiritual leader.
Oh, yes.
That God did call him. God did call upon him to do the great things that he was doing. Rom'EL, do you have anything else you may want to kind of speak to this?
Yeah, man. When it comes to Nat is definitely a spiritual superhero, because it wasn't so much just him having his own understanding or his grandiose dreams or such, because his dreams only solidified what others were already understanding about him. Before he was born, his relatives knew he was going to be something great. There was a singular purpose for his existence, and that was to serve his Yah at that time. And as the opposition would see it, they would call him brutal, cruel, and so many other terms. I mean, look at his end. His end was that of brutality. They cut up pieces of his body in so many other ways, and saved the oil from them burning his body. Right. So, I mean, you can call. I mean, if you notice the actual existence of America, they love to cry victim after. So when they call somebody brutal, point the finger back at them. When they call somebody uncivilized, point the finger back at them.
Right. Yeah. A lot of individuals don't know. He had about 30 or 40 men that was a part of this, what they call bloodiest slave rebellion, right? But yet we don't hear about all of the African Americans that were killed by whites
right after this
incident, unjustly, and we're talking, in the hundreds.
Yeah.
So, on October 30th, 1831, Nate eventually was captured. Represented by a lawyer, Thomas R. Gray. During the trial, Nate's plea was not guilty, as he strongly believed that God Yahweh had called him in the leading of this revolt against the upheavals of slavery. Nate and other blacks who rebelled with him was sentenced to death and later hanged on November 11th, 1831. There are those that might argue against what Nate believed. That is, rebellion against slavery was an act of God. But that's, as it may be, Nate is now looked at as this black superhero icon to the black African Americans, today. So, standing up, one that stood up for social justice against white oppression. Nate Turner in his Bloody Rebellion sent a message to other enslaved blacks in both northern and southern states that blacks, quote unquote, must fight for their freedom. Nate's rebellion was the catalyst that sparked and was needed to wake up African Americans. Because 30 years later, we find, come 1861 to 1865, if we think Nat's thing was what he had done was the bloodiest. Well, the bloodiest that topped that was the Civil War fought between who? North and the southern states.
Yeah.
For the, abolishment of slavery.
Yeah. And just another side note to throw at people, after that war, go ahead and look up what happened in Natchez, Mississippi. Another, I brought this up previously, how they treated us right after that Civil War. They were concerned about our existence, and not concerned in a good way. But back to Nat, people really want to just harp on the fact that he did what he did, and it was gruesome, but it was all for a purpose. Just like Joshua in the Word, it was all for a purpose.
Yeah. And we can talk more and more, but let's get to Sojourner Truth. So Sojourner Truth from 1797 to 1883. She's also known, and I put her down within this book because she was also a spiritual Black superhero within her time. There were other Black spiritual superheroes that emerged between the 17th and the 18th century, such as Sojourner Truth, known as Isabella Van Wagner, who would later come to be known as Sojourner Truth. Isabella was born into slavery in New York from 1797 to 1828. Isabella had at least 5 children by a former slave known as Thomas. Her parents were James and Elizabeth Bumfrey. Her father was a captive slave from the West African region of Ghana. Did y'all catch that? And West African region of Ghana. Her mother, Elizabeth, known as Maui Mawa Bat, was a descendant of slaves from the West African region of Ghana. So from birth, Isabella was enslaved to at least 8 different slave owners.
That's true.
So let's speak to that, because now we're, the book is all about waking up God's chosen people and who we are. And we're now realizing that we are descendants from those that have been enslaved from Africa over here to the Americas.
Yeah.
And Ghana, which we're going to talk about, we did last, podcast, that it was one of the largest slave ports, off of Warai. And that's the tribe of Judah.
Yeah.
And Benai, or some may say Benin, So, and it's very important, even if I have to go and put this, it's in the book.
Yeah.
The maps are there. We have maps that are going to be coming up. But let's just kind of speak to, Sojourner Truth.
Well, I was going to say, honestly, even looking at this picture, I don't know if, like I said, this is my own looking at this picture. The shawl that's on her, right? Do you see the tassels coming off of it?
I do.
That is a Hebrew culture. That's their clothing. So that tells me right there, like, she already knew who she was and she knew what her heritage was. That's not a very common shawl to be wearing, especially in America like that. So that to me right there, that stands out.
Yeah.
That stands out.
And once again, her father was captured slave from West Africa region of Ghana. Her mother, Elizabeth, she's there within West African region of Guinea. So that speaks volumes.
Yeah, it does.
So it's like, people go out, do your history. We can't depend on the Europeans doing our history for us. If you want to find out about yourself, who you really are, do the history.
Yeah, you either want to know the truth or you want to be lied to. That's it.
So when it comes to Sojourner Truth, These are the accomplishments, So one, during the African American Civil War, she assisted in making sure Black volunteers received, appropriate supplies, as Blacks who enlisted were treated poorly by receiving lower wages, than whites. Um, and that also kind of meant not just lower wages, but lack of appropriate food, uniforms, and even shoes during the winter months. Another accomplishment was she assisted in the integration of streetcars. A lot of individuals don't know that. We talk about Rosa Parks in the segregation of bus, right, and how we now have integrated. Well, Sojourner Truth was a part of that integration of streetcars, back then. She also assisted in the National Freedmen's Relief Associating and helping to improve the life of freed Black Americans after the Civil War. Some other things that she had even given counsel to, when we talk about the Freedmen Act, of course, that's the Reconstruction era, right? Mm-hmm. And that Reconstruction era, once again, Blacks, African Americans, they were promised 40 acres and a meal.
Yeah.
And that was, put on the table and taken back. And it was, we were lied to, when it came to that. Some of the other things that she has done, and this slide's going to come up, but in the 1870s, she assisted in the migration of freedmen's Blacks from Kansas and Missouri in the Midwestern regions in the United States. Some of the other accomplishments that she was acknowledged by President Abraham Lincoln in Washington, D.C. for her services to the United States. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to African Americans contributing, let's talk on that.
Well, I mean, we could also talk about the fact that a lot of the inventions that we had invented were stolen from us through the patent system that we had no privy to. This was not something that was talked about amongst the Black circles because we didn't own any rights, because we were just becoming something that wasn't owned. Mm-hmm. We just became actual human beings. Mm-hmm. So legally, obviously.
Well, let me ask you guys this, though. So we're just getting out of slavery. I know we're going to be talking about Harriet in a second, but we're just getting out of slavery and we're still working with the white people.
Mm-hmm. Well, we were working for them. We were sharecroppers. We were duped into that.
I'm saying this. We just got out of your cruelty and all this. And now that we're freedmen, mm-hmm. now we're still like the white man saying, well, come help me free your other people. But then I'm going to take all the credit. Mm-hmm. I mean, what are you guys? I don't know. What's your opinion on that?
Mm-hmm. Well, we talked last podcast about, which hasn't come out yet, but we talked about this whole Jim Crow, mm-hmm. and how that's like a gateway, but it's still a form of exploitation. It's mm-hmm. still a form of so. And once again, I think that we as African Americans, we as Hebrew, now knowing who we are, God Yah has blessed us with that of talents, gifts, abilities, as researchers, scientists, and we need to start, standing up to who we are, identifying and living that out. And in the only way we're going to do that, we can't go to another nation and expect another nation to sit back and tell us what to do, or maybe, hey, give me some history about myself.
Yeah.
I've got to do that on my own.
Yeah.
To go out and seek out.
Yeah.
That. And so that's what I feel about this here.
Yeah. Yeah.
In 1913, Harriet Tubman, God had now raised up another,
mm-hmm.
Black spiritual superhero. We know that Harriet, is also known as AKA Moses.
Yeah.
Because of what she has done in delivering those that were in slavery out of slavery. Mm-hmm. So that's known as the Underground Railroad and other historical events that she had participated in or God had used her in. Similar to Sojourner Truth, as many other slaves. Harriet Tubman was born into slavery approximately between 1819 and 1822. As her actual date of birth, we don't really know that.
Mm-hmm.
However, Harriet was born in Dorchester County, Maryland, and was given the name Araminta.
Okay.
Rose. We're going to kind of, talk about even where her parents, her grandparents, so we look at her parents were Harriet Green Ross and Benjamin Ross. Her maternal grandmother, Modesty, was born in Africa and believed to be of the Ashanti tribe located in Accra, Ghana, where her grandmother was stolen and enslaved into the United States.
Well, here's another fun fact. The word Ghana actually means like a fierce king, right? And basically, it was a part of a tribe identification marker, and it became Ghana as a location once a king settled there. And the Ashanti is biblical. If you look at Ashan, that is a name of a descendant, and T just means descendants of. So Ashanti, children of Ashan. So that's something that people should do their own research as well too. Obviously, most of the people that are on this channel follow the word. Look up Ashan and see where his lineage comes from, and you'll start to understand more and more why we have this claim.
So is it easier now to say, let's say like once you figure out where your tribe is, okay? So Harriet, she's, is informed that she's from the Ashanti tribe. So where do you go from there? Like, okay, I know what tribe I'm at. How do I link it to the 12 tribes? How do I know which tribe? Like, break that down so it'll be easier. Someone just like, okay, you're telling me to look it up. Now what? Where do I go from there?
That's a very good question, because that's what chapter 2 of the book. And we're going to talk about the 12 tribes. And we're actually going to look at, where these 12 tribes were dispersed, where they migrated. It's going to break down, the kings that are over these kingdoms, and the tribe of Judah and the tribe of Israel. So we have, that of Israel, which are the 10 tribes.
Yeah.
And then we have that of Judah. We talk about the 2 tribes, consisting of Judah and Benjamin. So we have the southern kingdom and we have the northern kingdom. We're going to also, and all of this it's biblical text. And the dates and all, it's been prophesied.
Yeah.
And the fulfillment of these prophecies and all. And, now it's just, looking at the geographics and all of his.
Yeah.
So here's a map. I want this to pass because we talked about, Guyana, and we talked about Guinea and all. But this one here, if you look, it's highlighted in the yellow. Shouts, what does that say?
Is that Judah?
Absolutely. the tribe of Judah. And, so how did the tribe of Judah get there off of the coast of Wada?
I mean, definitely a marker of that would be at the north end of it. There's a specific land marker that's running through that area, and it happens to run through a other part of the world as well too. And if I were a people that were running away from, say, oppression or a war, I would follow a water source. So that's something I wouldn't have to worry about. And what do you know? There's something in the Bible that talks about you will no longer be in your land, so you will have to disperse. And if you're going to disperse, I mean, you should follow a specific area. Just saying, do your own research. Don't take my word for it.
Yeah, and it's gonna. And so, listeners, I mean, please, I encourage you. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
But also, get the book. The book is right there. It's going to give it detail. I've had individuals either contact me with questions, and I'll sit back and I'll refer back to it. I says, hey, did you check the index? That's on page 120, and they go, now this stuff that's about Egyptians are
Oh yeah, they're
are
saying
not are not really black. And so you got Europeans that are pissed.
Yeah.
You know, that Cleopatra. How dare you sit back and say Cleopatra is black?
Yeah. They're in an uproar. It is crazy, right? Because it's like this whole time you've been changing us, our identity. We didn't say buku. But the moment we changed y'all and put a black face on there, oh man.
And the thing about it, we didn't change it. It's the truth. Well, all we're doing is bringing out the truth. And here's my thing. I just got to say this. It's all biblical.
Yeah.
And either you believe what is biblical, either you believe 100% of God's word, or you don't.
No. Well, I will say this. The truth itself is going to destroy the lie.
Yeah.
And the bottom line, it's oppressive to a liar. The truth is oppressive to a liar. Anytime you point out things like in the Bible, the actual description of our Savior, people get in an uproar about that. So of course they're going to get in an uproar about the largest civilized kingdom in previous times. They want to take credit for everything. They say that they try to say that Nimrod was white. I mean, he's from the line of Cush. He's from the line of Ham. Ham, blackface, burnt face. I mean, like, I'm telling you, these people will go at all lengths to steal everything they possibly can from everyone
to
until
deceive.
It's all. I mean, the global majority today is what? The global majority is black. So you mean to tell me it's a stretch to say that Cleopatra was black? That's a stretch. We're losing it. We just claim, but we still the global majority. Even after you guys have done everything to kill us, we could go with King Leopold trying to wipe out the Congolese. We can go with America trying to wipe out the slave. I mean, in every indigenous culture, you guys have tried to destroy, but the global majority is still the same.
Absolutely.
It's not a stretch to believe that influential figures in the Bible and in secular world are black. I don't understand how you can not reconcile this.
And the location of Africa. Yes. Once again, it is in the center of the continent.
Yeah.
There is no other, nation.
Yeah.
That's in the center of the continent. So, if anything, ask yourself the question. If Yah was to set up his kingdom, where would it be? If he's seeking a place to be a beacon, so a beacon to the world, because he's trying to gather his children. He's trying to administer his word.
Yeah.
It would be there, in Africa.
Yes, definitely.
So, some of the other events of Harriet Tubman, we've kind of talked about, and that map we had looked at was a European map from the 17th to 47th century. But, despite the risk of her life and the dangers of the Fugitive Slave Act, and that was in 1850, approximately between 1849 to 1860, Harriet is known to have at least led 14 trips and a total of 70 enslaved blacks from the south to the eastern shores of Maryland. Other achievements that make Harriet an icon, spiritual superhero of her time include, in 1862, during the Civil War, she added the Union Army as a spy and militia leader within the Union. I don't think no one knew that region better than she did. And keep this in mind, she didn't read or write.
Yeah.
She worked as a laundress, washing of clothes and uniforms, served as a nurse. And in 1863, Harriet assisted Colonel Montgomery with her intel of the area and leading the raid of Cambayi, the Cambayi Ferry. And then as this information successfully helped rescue over 700 slaves from various plantations along that river. So Harriet's name was well known, and her name was what?
Moses.
So we can go to even the book of Exodus, and we sit back and we hear of Moses, who led the children of Israel out of Egypt to the promised land. We've seen Moses leading God's, Yahweh's chosen people out of bondage, slavery, into what? A free land. But it ain't what's about to happen, because we talked about the 400 years. So, y'all ain't done yet. Y'all is also raising up other Black spiritual superheroes. And those of you that may not want to hear this, but I have to speak the truth. There's another Exodus. And that Exodus is leading to the promised land. What's the promised land? You're gonna hear me talk about this throughout the book. Believe it or not, that promised land is Africa.
Amen.
For sure. I mean, so much so that this next Exodus is gonna render the first Exodus immemorable. Nobody's gonna remember it anymore. We're not gonna talk about it anymore because the miracles we're gonna see, the events we're gonna be able to witness, and the things that we get to overcome are going to basically make the things that our ancestors overcome look like nothing. So imagine splitting a Red Sea in half, and that being a nothing event. Imagine what he's going to do with us. But I'm just saying.
And I just got to say this, what other people you are going to treat, worse than livestock. But yet these same individuals, when the United States is in trouble, do we tuck tail and run? No, we sit up, we pick up arms and are fighting for the United States, who wrongfully treated our ancestors and still wrongfully doing it today.
Yes, they are.
Still doing it today.
Yeah.
So, when we talk about, who's God's chosen people, when we sit back and we talk about, sovereignty, love, peace, joy, we don't have to do that. But yet, Yah moves us into that way. But don't be mistaken. He's not just that innocent slain lamb.
He's coming back as
that roaring lion.
He's also that lion. He represents that lion of Judah. And when judgment comes,
it's coming.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about scriptures that it talks about this here when the time,
I think, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Didn't mean to cut you off. But I think that's where it's so important that we got to get out of this traditional mindset of just going to church and hearing from the pastor. We got to start digging this stuff up. So
I'm going to just throw a few other names out there. And then if we don't mind, Rom'EL, if we can, talk about the Maroons.
Oh,
we can talk about, so I just can't wait to get in. And then maybe we can provide the reader with maybe some links and all. But, I just want to give credit to others, such as Rosa Parks, civil rights activists, Rom'EL, for former United States Senator Richard Allen, influential Black leader, minister, educator, and writer, Blanche Kelso Bruce, first elected African-American and former United States Senator, Frances Harper, abolitionist, suffragist, poet, author, writer, teacher, and first Black woman to be published in the United States. John Mercer Langston, former United States representative, abolitionist, attorney, and activist. Norris Wright Cooney, politician, businessman, advocate for rights of Blacks. Robert Smalls, born into slavery, businessman, pilot, former United States representative, and of course we know Crispus Attucks. We talk about Crispus Attucks and the American Revolution. Man, my nigga had to get shot. The first one on the firing field. Dang. Took a bullet.
Yeah.
For the European.
That's crazy.
Wasn't even our fight. But my brother.
What is that saying? I want to start changing the man, go ahead, my black, but no, go ahead, my Hebrew brothers and sisters.
Yeah, so a lot don't know that he was a whaler, a sailor. Christmas Adams was also, and we know he was the first black that was African American killed. But that's in some way that's got to be an honor. It's sort of like.
But hold up,
there ought to be a medal for it, right, man? Not only the first one killed, but first black.
But you know what, though? I'm taking that with a double-edged sword. I'm like, did one of these white folks push him out there? Did they just say, nope, you go first?
Right.
Because I don't know. Let me get out of that type of mindset. That's crazy. That's crazy.
And then, of course, Joseph Rainey, former United States representative. And there's so many others that I could not do.
Yeah.
Put in the book. But maybe that's for you all that's listening. Go research.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Maroons.
All right. So before we get into my favorite and talking directly about the Maroons, I want to bring up some other superheroes I want you guys to do some research on. My first one.
It ain't the Black Panther, is it?
Oh, no.
The Black Adam?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm telling you, hey, I guarantee you this. If anything, these men will inspire you to see them in the same light.
Yeah.
I promise you that.
Yeah.
All right, we have Robert Charles from Louisiana. Go ahead and do your research on him. We have Jasper Battle out of Georgia. Just a little hint on him. His son was killed by a KKK group. And he definitely got his revenge.
He went out fighting.
Yeah, he definitely got his revenge. He wasn't going to go for that.
Yeah.
Joseph Pullen or Pullum from Mississippi. Wyatt Tate from Alabama. And this is going to bring me to my favorite, John Horse.
Oh,
John Horse was a bad man.
He's a bad mama drummer.
Yeah, he was definitely one of them cats that was a war tactician. And he didn't have any formal training from what you would call the establishment or any of them. No, he was against them.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, they had sent a whole deployment down to Florida where he was with the Seminoles. He was a black Seminole. And
now, most folks don't know Black Seminole. Can you
elaborate on that?
Okay, so the Black Seminoles are basically two groups that intermingled. The Red Stick Indian and the free slaves, or slaves who were fleeing to freedom. They basically had intermingled and became a united front against the oppressor in Florida. And once they did that, they became a force to be reckoned with. And John Horse was one of the leading tacticians in battle. And once they sent that deployment down to Florida, they got destroyed. They came to Florida, didn't know what they were getting into. Once they got destroyed, they ran away and then lied to the tabloids up north saying, we won the battle. It's funny to hear and very amusing. And once you do your research, you see that, once again, America doing what it does, lures them into a treaty and turns tail on the treaty almost instantly.
Can I just say a little too? And that is, my understanding, they're the first that came up with guerrilla tactic.
Oh yeah. See, the actual fighting
and
style.
Also, can I just
go ahead.
Throw another one out there since we're just with our time. And I don't know, my understanding is Columbus wasn't the first.
Oh no, the Olmecs, and if you look at those Olmec heads, they weren't European in any form or fashion.
So can you tie all that in?
Well, basically, let me if you believe that the Europeans led in any form of fashion, you better do your research on that before you do your research on the opposition of that. No matter what you say, with once again me saying we are the global majority, we established everything. Everybody else jumped on the boat afterwards. You call Pythagoras' theorem, you say that is an invention of the Greeks at that time. Do your research on that. He got that theorem from Egypt. So if anything, you should call it Imhotep's theorem.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was stolen. When I say everything was stolen. And let me throw in a quick plug as well. The American Maroon is where I got my research on John Horse and did some more as well too. But like I said, it goes back to everything was stolen from us. We are the great inventors. We are the ones who establish everything. Then people jump on our backs and enjoy the fruits of our labor.
Not even that, you can even look at some of Columbus's notes that they have.
Yes.
He's already saying there's people here that look like Negroes.
All of his translators were Negroes. Mm-hmm. Okay.
But we don't read about that.
Oh, of course not. You can't give us credit. Can't do that. Cleopatra was white. Jesus was white. Okay. I mean, come on now.
But I do want to give credit to the European. If I had to say that they have, there is an award. That award would be the award of deception.
Yes. And who's their father? Who's the father of deception?
We know the father of deception, and that's Lucifer. He's known. It's Satan that he's known by. Mm-hmm. And and it kind of breaks my heart how we as mankind, and I'm talking from dark skin to light skin, can allow ourselves to be deceived.
Oh, but one last thing.
Yeah.
Let me throw in John Brown real quick.
Okay.
Now, obviously, we're not saying all Europeans are bad. We don't say those blanket statements.
Definitely.
But you know who's evil and you know who's not. I want to shout out John Brown and his sons, rest in peace, for putting their lives on the line when they did not have a dog in the fight, but they knew the truth about who the people they were defending was.
And John Brown was European.
Yeah, completely.
Just want the listeners to know that.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Completely European. His sons were European. There was no intermingling. They died for the truth.
Yeah.
And I think there is a reward for them waiting. They get to experience that, and I'm a wholehearted believer that we will be seeing them in glory.
Yeah. He knew
yes.
who we were.
Yes.
And he also gave his life, he and his sons, gave his life for the cause of what is right.
Yes.
The truth. And I noticed that we have pulled up that
American Maroons.
Those American Maroons. And so, gosh, it was a pleasure for you being here. I'm just thankful for y'all, just being able to have this discussion.
Yeah.
And of course, I know chapter 2, we're going to be able to kind of get off into the Davidic kingdom.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that all this kind of makes sense to the reader and all. And, I'm glad to be here. And just, if I had to say anything to the listener out there is shalom. I know there are those that know what shalom means.
Yeah, break that down.
But if there's those that don't, it's just all we're simply saying is peace.
Yeah, peace be with you.
Peace be with
You
you.
Yet again, we're sitting at the table. We got something good to eat, and we pray that this isn't coming from a heart of just self-intent. It's not about us. It's not about our pride, but it's about us having a love for Yah's people, having a love of knowing the truth and wanting to spread that out. We are called to be of the light, not to hiding it. We're called to be the salt of the world, not losing its flavor. So that's all we're trying to do. We're trying to wake up and to share truth, because that's what the Most High wants us to be about. Be in truth, be in spirit. So with that, I will say, go get the book.
Yes.
Go get the book and just read it. Think about it and read it along with your Bible and be in meditation. So thank you, Brother Rom'EL Terry. Thank you, Dr. Hudson, for a wonderful podcast. And listeners, if you guys have any questions, please comment them. We will answer them. We will get back to you. Like we've stated before, if you need help getting the book, please do not hesitate to reach out. And shalom. Have a wonderful day. And I hope you come back to eat again with us.
Peace.